Okay, great. So that's us back to another market recap, and we're going to go over a couple of the trades that we took this week, and we're actually going to focus a lot on the dollar index because there's a lot of movement in the dollar right now, and it's actually, of course, having an effect on the dollar pairs. And we just want to go over the potential opportunities and which ones might actually be the best ones to pick out. Now, this is actually a trade that we're currently in right now. We'd actually already banked a good bit of profit off a previous entry. But we actually closed that out. Just looking at the dollar index, then another entry actually came up within USD/CHF, so we decided to take that. So that's currently what we're sitting at right now. But if we just quickly go to the dollar index, it's going to really give us a good idea where the market's going to go. Of course, we're going to be looking at USD CAD, GBP USD, Aussie US dollar, USD JPY, and what the dollar index and the way that's moving means for these setups. And then we can start to look at, okay, what setups based on what we know is going to be more probable, more profitable for us. Now, currently we're sitting on the dollar index right now. And if we go out to say the daily chart, daily time frame, we'll be able to get a better understanding of what's actually going on. So, as you can see, for the majority of last year, we were in a bear trend, and now all of a sudden, now this more recent bear trend. So this is a good indication that we are actually on a bull run, at least in my opinion, till just past the 93 handle, up at 93.327, where you can see these highs had been printed around about the 31st of March, the 1st of April, just a couple of months back. So now what's happening is we're starting to see the market pull back. Now, this is actually quite a big push phase. We're having a small pullback, and my question is, where do we pull back to? And then once we do pull back, how do we react to it? Now, right now, it's looking quite probable that we could pull back to this level and then start to find some buyers and take price action back up toward the 93 handle. So when we are looking for that, we are looking for a clear entry specifically on these levels. It's got to have a couple of confluences. Now, of course, you can see this is a sort of like a narrow and descending wedge pattern into an area of support after we've broken out a bearish trend line, and we're showing significant signs of volume in terms of buying momentum. So now those are a good few confluences to make us pay attention to this and say, right, if we can actually get some buyers stepping into this market and driving price action back up higher, we will then start to look at the dollar-based pairs. And then if we know if the dollar is strong, and we will, for example, okay, if that's strong, typically speaking, that would drive price action down for that pair. But the opposite would happen for the US dollar CAD, because that is the primary currency in that pair, and it would drive price action up, typically speaking. Now, of course, sometimes that has a negative correlation with the euro. So if the dollar is strong, the euro will be a little bit weaker. So we can start to really map out, just based solely on looking at the dollar index, what we're going to do for our dollar-based pairs. Now, typically, this week, in my opinion, the dollar-based pairs have been the more volatile. So for me, that's been my focus, and so far it's been quite a good week. But nonetheless, we are setting up again to get in further positions in favor of the dollar being strong. So right now, if we zoom in, we're on the 4-hour chart, 4-hour time frame. Sorry. So now we're currently zoomed into the 1 hour. You can see here. For me, I really do want price action to come back into this area and then get maybe like a nice bullish hammer candle or some form of slowing down, so we could analyze the behavior of the price action. Because once you analyze the behavior, once it hits a key level that's been drawn correctly, then you can start to make good decisions on whether you should get in, and then of course when you should get in, and where you should put your stop loss and where your take profit would be. You could actually get quite a small trade in here. Of course, you wouldn't be trading the dollar index, but typically speaking, these types of scenarios will look similar on the dollar pairs anyway. So I would want price action before I was at least considering buyers stepping back in the market to come back down in this area. Now, it could very well just take off from here. To keep things as safe as humanly possible, and to know that when I put money into the trades, that we're going to be placing that is done thoroughly, it's been checked thoroughly, and everything is giving us the signs that that was a good trade to take. So for me, I want to see price action come down just that little bit lower. I want to see it land in that box, and then obviously we're going to study the price action. Now, there's many different ways to study the price action. There's many different things you can look for, and of course many different percentages of probability, and that is the sweet science. But again, we can't get too much into that right now because it's literally just a recap, and it would take us literally hours to go over these different types of variables. But nonetheless, we know what we're looking at for the dollar index. We are anticipating buyers to start stepping back into the market because we're seeing that descending wedge pattern come back into a key area of support after we've broken out a bearish trend, and it looks like we are on that pullback phase. So a good couple of confluences there. So if we just stick to the dollar base pairs for tonight, we can start to have a look. Now, I've not actually been paying attention to many of the dollar base pairs in terms of analysis in the past 24 hours, 48 hours, apart from the trade that we entered at the start of the week. So for me, going back over this is going to be a refresher for me. So as you can see, this is sort of the same sort of pattern that we're seeing on the dollar index, like what we spoke about. So right now, if we zoom out to get an overall understanding of what price action is actually doing, you can see that we are stuck in this channel. Now, this is a great telltale sign that buyers are stepping back into the market. We're taking several days. We're really rounding it off at the very bottom here. We're at the bottom of the channel at a level of support that we actually took off. And now we're starting to push back up to the edge of the trend line. But we actually did close above that. As you can see here with the arrows pointing, we actually closed above that, but since then we had a candle that was of almost equal strength come all the way back down, and now we're currently back inside it, and now we're starting to round back off, and you can see here on a really nice area of support. So the question now would be, how well would this level of support hold? And if it does hold well, I would be happy to take a trade and risk breaking through that, because I have all those confluences on the dollar index to say, right, buyers are actually going to step back in the market. It's incredibly likely that we are going to reach this level, and I'm happy to trade that in, say, US dollar CAD, because we know if the dollar strong on the dollar index is going to be strong and move up alongside US dollar CAD. So US dollar CAD could be a really nice one. Now, GBP USD is the exact inverse, because the dollar is not the first currency in that pair. So if the dollar was strong, which we are anticipating that buyers could make it strong, this would drive price action down. Now, this could be argued that this could be the push phase. You could have a pullback, and then if it sort of lines up with the dollar index, we could crash right through this level, because we did have that big bullish engulfing. We came back inside it, and now we're starting to look a little bit sluggish. So for me, GBP USD would not be on my ready to enter list anymore. I'm taking that off. US dollar CAD, we're keeping that in the green. All the ones in the green we're going to be focusing on for the dollar based pairs anyway. So if the dollar is going to be strong, anticipating it's going to be strong, we anticipate that this Aussie US dollar would actually go down. Now, we could actually get ourselves an entry here back down to these lows at 0.74761, because we are starting to see that push phase. We've got that pullback. We'll have a Fibonacci on to give us a rough guideline of where price action may be able to retrace to. It's just then we will look for those entry signals to take it back down to where the lows have just been printed at 0.74761. So if we were to really get in Aussie US dollar, let's just put that green. If we were to really get in Aussie US dollar, we would really have to be making sure it lines up with the dollar index. Now, you know, let me see. There actually just might be an entry here right now. Let me see. Have we missed it? We might have actually missed it. Nope, we can still get in, and I think we actually are going to enter this one. So 2 seconds. So that's us actually in that trade. So if we just go over why we actually just took that trade, I think it would be a good understanding, since we've just actually broke it down and we did actually see that entry signal that got us in. So as you can see, we have just bounced nicely off the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement. You can see it's just from the top of the highs here to the bottom of the lows here, and we have taken that as the push phase. Now this is the pullback phase that we anticipated. You can see we're sort of zigzagging up in some form of, could be argued, a very, very premature rising wedge